This chapter in Kerrygold is all about scaling the business from 1 to 2, in my head, actually 3 billion. That's the chapter. That's what I'm here to do. I woke up when I was 30 and I was like, all I cared about was winning at work. I wasn't winning in life.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fearful Giants, the podcast that's getting loud about something most leaders never talk about out loud, their fear. I'm Clay Stelzer, executive coach and founder of 1560, the coaching company. And every week I sit down with a founder, a CEO, or an executive leader to talk about the stuff they're not typically talking about or posting about on LinkedIn. And today I have a very old friend. Well, she's not old, but she's been a friend for a really long time. Lindsay Brady, who is the president of Ornua Foods North America. That's the company behind Kerrygold butter, which we're going to talk a whole lot about today. At Ornua, she leads the brand's growth across the U.S. and Latin America. She's spent more than 2 decades building and leading major food brands with senior roles at ConAgra, Hillshire Brands, Tyson Foods, General Mills, Campbell Soup. She knows food. She's built some massive brands in the space. Before Ornua, she led a $1 billion portfolio, ConAgra, and today she's helping guide one of the most loved brands in dairy through its next chapter of growth. Hey, Lindsay.
Hey, Clay. Great to see you.
It's so great to see you. I really appreciate you being on here with us and sharing all of what you're going to share.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I love doing stuff like this.
Cool. I'm glad. Okay, so you've grown up in food. You've led massive brands and you're doing that now. And so, well, one, I want to talk about butter because, of course, we got to talk about butter. And then I want to, obviously, and then I want to talk about your career growth and what you've learned along the way and where you are now and what's ahead for you. How's that sound? That
sounds awesome. I love talking about butter too.
Yeah, well, good, because I have a brand new game we designed just for you.
Okay, lay it on.
Ready?
Me, yep.
Here it is. The game is called Butter or Bullshit.
Okay.
and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a series of statements about butter. Some are true and some are not true. And you're either going to answer with butter or you're going to answer with bullshit.
Okay. Oh, this is going to be an interesting one.
No pressure. Okay, here's the first question. In ancient Rome, butter was sometimes used as hair product.
Bullshit. Oh.
I just bought this. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, well, by the way, you see this shine right here?
Kerrygold?
Kerrygold. It's Kerrygold. It tastes delicious too. Every once in a while, I take a little lick. I didn't know this either. The Romans, they use butter as hair product. Who would have guessed?
I would have thought they would have used like beef tallow or something like that.
Yeah. And by the way, what's old becomes new. So when you're thinking about brand expansion, there may be an opportunity here for you.
Well, that already may be on the category expansion roadmap. You never know.
Good. That's terrific. Okay. Next question. Butter is an excellent lubricant for runners chafing.
Bullshit. Okay. Good. Woo!
You got it.
Thank God.
Like these...
Okay.
Does this really feel like you're...
Is that failing? Maybe. Who cares?
Wow, what a leader. You're already thinking, am I winning or failing? This is the most ridiculous thing I could have asked you to do. And you're really thinking, am I succeeding at this? Yeah, you're 1 for 1. I think it's going to get easier though. So you're going to get an A on your paper here. All right, you ready? Here's the next one. Buttermilk comes from a unique type of butter cow called a moo dana.
Bullshit.
Woo! You're so smart. Of course you're leading this business.
Now I actually know what buttermilk is in this role.
2 more. This is really going to test your knowledge of the brand, Kerrygold. Ready? Your next question. In the late 70s, Kerrygold launched a short-lived cologne line called Eau de Dairy.
Bullshit.
I so wanted you to think a little bit harder about it, but I think this is another opportunity for you to consider. I mean, who doesn't love the smell of butter?
This is very, very true. I will say we did do Kerrygold liqueurs at one point.
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. I'd
yeah.
like to try
Cannot
that.
find them anywhere, but they were good.
I've got one last one here. This is going to test you. You ready?
Okay.
Butter tastes best when eaten while wearing a cable knit sweater.
I think butter, yes.
You got what you got? 4 out of 5, right? That's an 80%. And on this game, that's like
Right.
120%. And that's not possible, but you are a big winner. Thank you so much for playing Butter or Bullshit.
That's
You didn't have any
amazing.
idea what you're getting yourself into
I
by coming
actually
on this show.
didn't. I didn't. I think, yeah, fair enough. Okay.
Okay, well, now let's talk about the serious stuff. Let's talk about fear and all this stuff that we talk about on Fearful Giants. No, we're going to have fun the whole time. My first question is for you. I mean, it's so cool that you're running this massive business. If you could go back and talk with 10-year-old Lindsay, and you could tell her, when I grow up, I'm going to run $1 billion butter and cheese company. What do you think she'd say?
That wasn't even on 10-year-old Lindsay's radar. I wanted to be a veterinarian because I loved animals and my parents wouldn't let me have a dog. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's funny. I never really envisioned this type of future for myself until I got into undergrad and college, and then we went to business school together, obviously. I think 10-year-old Lindsay would be like, "Whoa, that's pretty cool, but why butter?" I mean, it's a bit of an odd choice. And food is not necessarily an obvious choice for everyone, but now it's become my life's work and it's meaningful life's work for me now, which is really
Yeah, I
fun.
was about, right. Like, well, let's answer that question that she would have. Why food?
It wasn't strategic. Let me be clear. When I was 18, I went to Cornell Hotel School with the intent of being a restaurateur because I thought that sounded really cool and glamorous. And then I got into it and I'm like, it's not glamorous whatsoever. And it's really hardworking nights and weekends. And so I kind of rethought my plan. And hospitality and restaurants are very connected to food. So I'm like, okay, well, that feels like not a total waste of my college education. So that's good. Seemed like there was going to be a reasonable amount of demand for it no matter what happened in the world. So that felt good. Especially coming out of undergrad, I interviewed with a company that had like a nice management rotation program in their field sales division. And I got into it and I loved it. Like the rhythm worked for my personality. I felt like it played to some of my strengths as a individual. And so I just started and then I never stopped. And, I think food compared to a lot of other industries can be a little difficult in the US. It's a very mature industry. Like the population isn't growing. We probably literally and physically can't eat any more food in the US. And so growth is hard to come by, actually. But I also feel kind of proud that I've made a career out of it. I get a lot of meaning out of it. And then I feel like if you can succeed in food, which is kind of a tough industry, you're kind of a tough dog. And I've always appreciated that. And now, like food is intertwined in our lives. It's part of our culture, part of our health. And it's this huge kind of ecosystem that really impacts everyone. And I really enjoy being part of it.
You said something to me that really, I just loved hearing. I don't hear people say this all the time. You said, this is a remarkably happy chapter in my life, which is like, oh, congratulations. No, really, these things don't
Happy
happen by
and healthy,
chance.
actually, by the way, happy and
Happy and
healthy.
healthy.
They don't happen by chance necessarily.
No, they don't. Yeah, so they really don't. A lot of people are waiting around for the world to show up a certain way for them to be happy. And you know what happens when we wait around for the world to show up for us? We could be waiting a long time. So you must have done something to create this chapter for yourself. And I am curious, though, what is it about this particular chapter you're in that has led you to such a happy existence?
First of all, I think as you get older and more mature, you get perspective, and that's always important. And I think especially when I was young, I was very, we went to business school together, right? So it was very much about ambition and making a good ROI on that investment. So I was very professionally oriented. And over time, I think as I've grown up and been through many experiences and just clarified what I wanted for my life, I realized that it couldn't be all business and no personal life. So that's been a journey for me along the past few decades, I would say. So in that way, I've changed. And then I think the other thing that has really helped me become happy and healthy is finding meaning and purpose in my work
Mm.
and really clarifying like what I thought that looked like, trying to find the conditions that and the companies and the enterprises and the teams that could enable that, and then working my way towards those over time. And I think purpose is what gets you up on a Wednesday morning when you're sick, like I was this week, and tired and had to go show up for my team. And, like my physical body was like, nope, don't go. And my purpose was like, no, like this means a lot to you and you're gonna get a lot out of it today. That's been a lot of it for me is just perspective and then really kind of clarifying like, well, what does happy and healthy look like? And how do I start to architect something around that in my personal life and my professional career? And then how do I actually intertwine them a little bit more than I ever have before?
Yeah. I love this idea of purpose. I mean, who doesn't want a purpose led life? But when I think about your career, I mean, it was General Mills, it was Campbell Soup, it was Tyson, it was ConAgra. Like you've been in food a long time. And we just talked about food as a category and how fulfilling it can be. But what is it about this particular brand that has led to a more purpose filled chapter than the others when you were just working on other food brands?
Yeah, like I struggled with this for a long time because I was working on like SpaghettiOs and Campbell Soup, and those are wonderful brands that provide wonderful moments in people's lives and great livelihoods for many people. But this brand is different for me. We are owned by 14,000 Irish dairy farmers, and those are family owned farms, to be clear. And they are the kindest, most authentic, hardworking, smart people you can possibly imagine. And that plus my team is who I get up and work for every day. And I
Sure.
think there's something meaningful in it for me. So dairy is like a huge part of the Irish economy. I mean, literally, it's a pillar within the Irish economy. Ireland is a place that now that I've gotten to know it is very near and dear to my heart. And then, my team, like I've got this remarkable team here. Like we're pretty small. We've got a big business, but we're pretty small boots on the ground. They show up day in and day out. And, when I came into the business, I definitely had high expectations for them. And I know that they felt that, but they've really risen to the challenge, I would say. And we've changed the way that we're doing things. We've continued to grow and accelerate the business. And so I think very highly of them. I want to be there for them. And so, like, all of that wrapped up is meaningful to me in this particular role.
Yeah, I love it. Who am I working for? I think a lot of young people, especially, they're working for themselves. They're not working for their customers, they're not working for their employers. And there's nothing wrong with that. But creating a purpose led life, I think, I'm supporting people that I respect, that I want to see be successful. I think that makes, I mean, being a coach, it's like the most rewarding thing I can
I
do
can
is to work for someone, to help someone create the lives that they're wanting or the businesses that they're wanting. It's amazing. Yeah.
I think the other thing for me about this brand in particular is I do think it's positive human impact, not only because it's Irish family farms. I do feel great about the quality of our products, the health profile, even though it's butter and cheese, it's grass fed. And I could wax poetic on the health benefits of grass fed dairy. You don't want me to do that. But I do feel like I'm making positive human impact in the world by being part of the business and the team that delivers this, especially in the US, where I think high quality food is a little harder to access.
Well, yeah. One more question, and then we're going to move on to something. How did you know that you needed something else? Your last gig was ConAgra. You were doing quite well. I imagine financially you're doing well. Resume looked amazing. You had this incredible job that most people would love to have. Yet you knew there's something else I'm wanting or needing. What was that reckoning?
Yeah. So there are like two stages of that for me. When I hit 30 years old, my life kind of fell apart in a weird way. I realized that I was like so focused on work. I hadn't been prioritizing my personal life, my health, anything. And I kind of came to a reckoning and had a bit of a crucible moment and decided I wanted something bigger from my life. And that's when I started to think about this idea of purpose. How do I show up in the world and what do I want the end to look like at the end of all of this? That started the journey for me. And then, not strategic, but I think at times we just change and we know that we're ready for the next chapter. And I was ready for the next chapter. I was ready to do something where I could make a bigger impact in the culture, maybe was better connected to my purpose, maybe was a little smaller, maybe even private, which I've actually really enjoyed. That's like a whole other interesting angle. I just felt it. Like you feel when you get discontent and you're restless, I think. And then the trick was finding the right thing. And, what you have to do is you have to just be ready, know what you want. And then when it shows up, go after it. So I was lucky in that regard that this opportunity presented itself and it ended up being a really good fit. But I just Like, there have been different chapters in my life where I'm like, "Okay, I'm ready for something different. Like,
Yeah.
I've done what I need to do here," or, I think there's something bigger for me elsewhere.
I love it. We talked a minute ago about how waiting around for life to show up a certain way is probably not a great strategy. My favorite thing to talk about is this idea of taking radical responsibility of your life. Really love it's what's helped me create a purpose led life for myself. And so, similar to maybe your ConAgra, I was in a really cool role. I was an innovation consultant working with some of the biggest brands in the world, and I was a disaster. And I had my own reckoning. In retrospect, what I've had to learn is, was it the job or was it the way I was being in the job that was leading to my unhappiness? And I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's both. And so I always like to play in that space just for the sake of our own growth and learning and just being curious. I'd love to kind of walk into that with you. I mean, clearly there was parts of the job itself that you didn't love, maybe, or the company or whatever, the culture, or whatever it might be. And maybe the company culture and all the other things now are more meaningful to you. But I am actually curious. And the reason I bring this up, because now that I have kind of woken up in my life and learned what I needed to learn, and I learned how I was creating a lot of suffering for myself, I actually do wonder, if I were to go back to that other company now, how would that experience be different? Now, I'm imagining, you've got these farmers you like working for and the brand. I mean, there's so much specifically with the company you really love. And I love the company that I'm with as well. But I am also curious. I'd like to kind of step into that. What's the other side of that? You willing to play ball with me?
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, that's a provocative question, actually. That
Yeah. Love the question. What was my part in that? And what was the company's part in that? In my lack of fulfillment, if we want to use those words. So I have another game. It's not nearly as fun as the butter game, but it's still pretty interesting. It's called What Was Running the Show? For me, the pattern was I was unconsciously absolutely focused on earning my place at the table, earning approval from everyone around me, from my clients and my employees and everyone around me. And I sucked all the fun and life out of my experience. That was my pattern that I learned a long time ago. And so I'm going to share with you some typical patterns that we all have, that we all learn to grow through. And I want you to pick two that you think were a part of the last chapter that was not as fulfilling as this chapter.
okay,
That sound okay?
that
All right.
sounds
So here are
great.
the typical patterns all ambitious people go through. So, one, proving myself. Next one is fear of falling behind. Third is perfectionism. Fourth is fear of disappointing people. Fifth is being the good one. Next one is winning. Next one is survival. And the last one I have here is achievement addiction. This isn't the exhaustive list of all the patterns ambitious people get in, but these are pretty common ones. I'm kind of curious, you hearing that list, were there a couple of these that you knew were a part of the last chapter that you've learned to grow through?
Probably the one that resonates most is, like, I thought it was winning, right? And I came up in all of these, graduated from business school, went to go work for a larger publicly traded food company. And you get in your head this idea that success only looks like one thing. And for me, it looks like being, a senior executive at a large publicly traded company. And I bought into that. I bought into, and it was funny. Like, at times I reopened it. 2019, I reopened it and kind of reopened my career again. Like you do sometimes, there are different chapters where you take a step back and you say, okay, is this absolutely the right fit for where I'm headed and what I want to do? But I really bought into it. And part of why I bought into it, I think, is like there was a senior leader at ConAgra who I just really admired, and so maybe it was a little bit of fear of disappointment. I don't know. He was basically a constant in my career for 25 years, since post MBA through my ConAgra, through the end of my tenure at ConAgra. And I admired him so much. And he was very successful. And I'm like, that's the model. That's who I want to be. I just respected him a great deal. And so I had in my head that that's what success looked like. And then I guess, at some point along the way, I realized it wasn't fulfilling. The culture wasn't a good fit for me, totally candidly. And I wanted something different and maybe more for myself. And that's
Yeah.
hard. Like, like when people talk about different relationships you have in your life, right? Sometimes you're afraid to let go of the old one because you don't think that there could be something better and something new. But that was certainly me. And I think I was scared to let go. But it wasn't an instant process. It took some time. And then once it takes time, then you got to clarify what you want. And then when you clarify what you want, then the opportunity has to be available, and so all that took some time for me. But yeah, now it is funny. I think also during that time when I was at ConAgra, I started there right during COVID, basically, which was weird days for all of us. And that was a growth chapter for me in my own life where I got really, really habitual about my systems and my routines to enable the longer term outcomes that I wanted for my life, particularly with regards to health, positive thinking, connection with my loved ones. And so, like, I built all these systems, like the morning rituals, basically. I also, gratitude and prayer were like a big part of that kind of growth journey. And so, like, the whole time I was at ConAgra, I was just kind of like learning, growing, clarifying. Okay, I know I want this. I know that this is what I want the end to look like. And putting in these systems to try to get me there, especially around gratitude and, meaningful work. And if I had stayed there, might I have started to enjoy it more and show up differently? Probably. I mean, but I think that also the whole growth journey for me was I had to hold myself to a higher standard for what I wanted out of my career, which was a more meaningful career for myself and maybe a culture that was a better fit for myself. So who knows? But it's a good question because the reality is like anything in life we contribute to and then the environment contributes to. It's like the controllables and the uncontrollables. And are you doing everything on the controllables that you can?
You just shared a lot of different things, but one of the patterns you did talk about was winning. And I don't think there's anything wrong with winning. In fact, I've actually, in my adulthood, I've come into a really cool relationship with a competitive one that lives within me that I think I suppressed for a long time. I think winning can be just super fun. There's nothing wrong with it, unless it's a fear-based pattern. Whereas if I don't win, then I hold meaning around that. So it's like, if I don't win, if I don't win, if I don't win, which leads us to all kinds of nothing good, anxiety, exhaustion, frayed relationships, et cetera, et cetera. So you mentioned from the list, amongst everything else you said, winning was probably part of the deal. You wanted to be this young person, a publicly traded company, senior executive, et cetera, et cetera. Then you also talked about this mentor that you didn't want to let down. I'm curious though, I'd love to play with this winning idea. Where did you learn that winning would get you something? Like, what's underneath this idea that I want to win? Was it just a really clean, fun thing? Like, yeah, I want to win. Or was it like, no, I need to win?
It's very deep rooted in me. So I don't know if you know this, but I'm a twin. Growing up, I had a constant companion in an awesome way, and then a constant comparison as well. And we also had an older sister who's super duper smart, valedictorian up for high school class, and like went to Cornell for undergrad, and set the bar pretty high, especially for my mom. Like my mom is really ambitious. Professional accomplishment has always been very important to her. And so I think she really instilled that in us. Nothing bad came about it because it meant that I was a pretty competitive person coming, out of my upbringing. But, at the dinner table, I got a 93 on a test. That's great. Your twin got a 99. What's happening with you, kiddo? This whole idea of competition is kind of deeply ingrained. So is collaboration, by the way, because I've been negotiating my whole freaking life with someone else, from a very early age. So it is very deep rooted. Now, is it fear based? I probably need to dig into that a little bit more. But I've learned that it's how I'm wired, just kind of inherently from how I was raised. And over time, I realized that winning isn't a zero sum game either. Like, I think I've really tried to adopt an abundance mentality. Like, everyone actually can win. And so that's actually really cool. And so, like, I love it when other people win around me. Like, that's amazing. And I also love to win. And like, I was just hearing the story about some founder who got bought out for like $1 billion or something the other night at dinner. And I was like, good on that guy. Like, good on him. Like, how awesome is that for him? Like, that's like a generational wealth type game changer for his whole family. So, yeah, winning, it's a thing.
Yeah. I like to win a whole bunch. Now, I don't know if your winning pattern is a pattern at all. I don't know if it's fear-based. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if it was, though, especially given the example you just mentioned, a young person that seemingly just excelled at a 94, but was compared to someone that got a 99. Like, that creates a lot of fire in a young person. And there's all kinds of benefits that can come from that. And there can be a cost if you're not careful. So I want to talk about both of those, but then I also want to talk about how the heck you got to this abundance mindset for someone that has that pattern in your bones. So first of all, and maybe this is obvious, but I do think there's two sides to every pattern. What's the gift in being let's just call it hyper competitive, or really having a drive to win? How has that served you?
I do think my mom instilled ambition like in myself and both of my sisters. Like professional accomplishment is one of our core values. Like you show up, you work hard, and you do the best you can. And that is like a core value of all of us. Yeah, it has made me competitive in my career. Life is not a zero sum game. I don't believe that. But in a lot of organizations, there's a median and you always want to be above it, if you will. And coming out of business school, actually, this was pretty formative for me. I worked for a company that actually managed out the bottom 10% of like the MBA classes that they hired. So that was a little fear based for me too. But this whole idea of winning and competition, what it meant is behaviors that it resulted in is I would work harder than other folks I knew because I figured more discretionary effort would probably lead to better outcomes. And so I was very, very focused on that. And so I think I feel very successful in my career, a lot of because my ambition and this winning competitive edge. And then when you like get into business and it is about actually doing better than your peer companies,
Yeah.
like that is the mindset and the mentality. It has served me well in that regard too.
Yeah. So again, two sides of winning. There's the healthy winning that's just fun and business requires it. And we get to choose whether or not we want to be executives. And there can be the dark side of winning, which is fear based. And again, I don't know if that existed in your life, but was there a cost to this drive to win?
The first was what I spoke about earlier was I woke up when I was 30 and I was like, all I cared about was winning at work. I wasn't winning in
Yeah.
life. That cost me some dear, really important things. And I had to rectify that and restore relationships. I also think earlier in my career, I was probably more focused on winning than building high trust relationships. And that was a whole learning curve for me because the reality is you can't win if you don't have a network of people around you who you trust and they trust you and you're working together towards a common goal. And so I had to learn that to a certain degree. I don't think I was a raging asshole, but it was competitive and pretty intense. And I had
Yeah.
to like very quickly learn that that was not going to serve me well. And so that was a bit of a journey and, coaching that I had, I think, early on in my career, which I really benefited from.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't think intensity in and of itself is a bad thing as long as it's done with some intention and with some emotional intelligence, seeing that everyone can win or whatever it might be. You can do that from a healthy place. I'm actually curious about the pivot that you made. You just talked about this abundance mindset that you learned to step into, and it's good on that guy for selling his company for $1 billion or whatever it is. That's a difficult shift for a lot of people. A lot of people go their whole life with that fire under their butt. And it's, if I'm not winning, then nothing's good in the world. How did you make that switch? What was required for you to actually fundamentally get into a healthier relationship with winning?
Well, number one, I think I have learned the importance of gratitude and appreciating the success that you have inherently in your life, wherever it is. Like it's really easy to compare yourself to someone else, right? And to feel like you're not winning. But when you appreciate what you have, and certainly I've been super duper blessed in life, like right out of the gates, I had won at life. I have a great family that I love. Yeah, I mean, like really, like I'm very
Yeah, yeah,
appreciative, aware about that now. I had a lot of great things go well for me, and that was already a win in life. So gratitude and appreciating what I did have and what I could offer. And then I think also I got exposed to leaders because I think there are two different types of people in the world. I think there are abundance mentality and then zero sum mentality. And maybe it's not so black and white, but I do think earlier in my career, I was exposed to a lot of zero sum mentality. It was like, if I'm going to get promoted, it's at the expense of you. I just realized that that wasn't true. Sometimes it is, or perhaps a better way of saying it is both things can be true. And I actually believe, and then you have a couple like really good experiences where you win with someone or you meet someone else with an abundance mentality and you just realize like, first of all, it's a much happier place to be. And that's positive reinforcement. But I think when I started to surround myself with people who had more of that mindset, you just realize that it's just life is not a zero sum game
yeah,
ever.
yeah. Well, I do know that part of your growth you may attribute to this mentor that you had along the way. I'd
Yeah.
like to talk about that. Can you just share a little bit about the relationship?
These two gentlemen have both been very transformative, but in very different ways for my career. The first is the CEO of ConAgra, Sean Connolly, who a lot of people know and love. For me, he was a career champion and advocate, and he gave me opportunities that I probably wouldn't have had otherwise. And then the rest was up to me to, learn the business, and perform and lead the team. But for whatever reason, he chose to do that, and that made an impact on my career. The
Okay.
other one, which is probably a little more profound, is a mentor that I developed a relationship with when I was at Campbell's. And he, for whatever reason, he chose to invest in me. He's like, look, a bunch of our leadership team was talking about folks and mentoring and who we wanted to make sure had some, extra coaching. And what he and I did, and he knew me well because I'd worked for him. And he and I were very different in a good way, but we still had good chemistry. So I felt like I could trust him. He was the one who coached me on high trust relationships, first of all. What he and I did together, and this is very nerdy, but we read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People together because we were kind of a Stephen Covey organization. And look, I'd read it before, but when I read it with him, 2 things. Number 1, I think I was a little older. Maybe I was ready to receive the lessons in that book. And then working with him as a mentor, he called my bullshit. So the whole process we went through was reading that book and me reflecting on different chapters and then thinking about how I would basically action against the different chapters. And the whole premise of that book is begin with the end in mind. So at the end of your life and your career, what do you want to have stood for? How do you want to have shown up? What is the legacy you want to lead? And that's what he and I worked on together. It was powerful because he had gone through something similar. And so he was someone I could learn from in that process. He called my bullshit and made sure that it was authentic to me as we went through that process. And it really changed my life. It really did. I mean, that was the start of becoming happy and healthy. It might not have happened
Yeah.
right away, but it was the start of the journey. He knows this because every single time I talk to him, I probably embarrass him and like comment on it. But so thankful that he did that for me and with
Well,
me.
my guess is not only has it been such a gift for you, but probably such a gift for him. I hope he listens to this too. I mean, you've shared this with him over and over and over again, but folks listening, if you don't have a mentor and there's something in your life that is either wrong or you're missing, I mean, mentor relationships, coach relationships, different kinds, they can absolutely fundamentally change and transform someone's life. And I love that you have had that experience. And of course, what we've been talking for another 10 minutes is probably time for another game, Lindsay.
All right.
But we're going to talk about, I think we should talk about this Campbell's guy. And what's his name? Are you comfortable sharing his name?
I think so. Chris Slager. He's well
Okay.
known and loved too by many.
Chris. Got it.
Yeah.
We're going to play a game called Mentor's Red Pen. And Chris has changed your life. In some way, he has helped you transform your own life, is what I really believe. And imagine he's got a red pen and he's marking up the old version of Lindsay in the margin. So I'm going to read a couple first prompts and you're going to finish the statement as his red pen,
Okay. All
as
right.
what Chris would have said to you. Okay. Here's the first one. And this is from Chris. So Lindsay, stop, ...
Well, Lindsay, stop trying to pretend that you're perfect because you're not, and get real with yourself around where your strengths are and then where you probably need help and actually need to think about focusing and developing. I know it's crazy. I thought I was perfect until I was 30. Delusional.
Well, hold on. You're not perfect.
I know. I know. Barely imperfect.
Next one. Lindsay, the rule you are living by currently is
External validation.
external. That's another pattern we didn't talk about. Okay. Got it. So
Yeah.
that was a driver.
I was
Yeah.
totally a driver. It's like that
Yeah.
success winning thing and
Right. Sure.
proving myself is a theme
Proving
that you.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Next. Lindsay, what actually matters is, and this is from Chris,
Lindsay, you need to clarify what matters to you.
get clear.
Get clear.
Okay. Next one. Lindsay, if you keep going this way,
Well, Lindsay, you can continue to bullshit yourself and keep going this way. But I don't think that's why you showed up here for mentoring. And so therefore you got to get real. You got to get real. And you have to explain the struggle here or what you actually want here if you're going to get clear on what you want out of all this. That was where he challenged me the most is putting on and stop putting on a good show for me because I'm a senior to you in the organization and start getting like this is for he's like this is for you. You get real, but if you're not real, then you're just going to stay in a cycle of unhappiness.
yeah. Yeah. And if he were here with us right now, what do you think he would say the biggest transformation he's seen in you?
I'm becoming more human
What does that
and
mean?
empathetic.
Empathetic.
Yeah.
Okay, this feels like new data. Empathetic. Who weren't you empathizing with before? What was the old version, and what does this new empathy look like?
I didn't expect to get emotional, Clay, but you're bringing up some core memories for me. I think type A family. You're going to go to an Ivy League school. That my parents didn't really push the Ivy League thing, but you're going to go to a good school and you're going to get an education and you need to work hard. And part of your worth is wrapped up in what you accomplish professionally, right? Go to business school. I invested in business school. Now I'm going to get out and I'm going to prove myself and I'm going to make a success of myself. And I'm going to do well and I'm not going to fail because I don't want to get managed out at the bottom 10% of the class or whatever it is, right? And along with that, an impatience, a results orientation, an intensity, all of that. And perhaps lack of self-awareness around where my shortcomings were and or how I was showing up to people and or the unintended impact that I was having. I think, I had gone through a bit of a crucible personal moment when I started my mentoring relationship with him. And I remember like I got into his office stuff. Actually, the first time we met and I started crying, which probably he had people crying in his office all the time. I was horrified. I never cried out of work before for sure. I was explaining some of my personal challenges and troubles to him. And he was like, look, he's like, first of all, unfortunately, all of us go through difficult times. And he said, what it's going to do is it's going to open your eyes to other people's struggles and some of what
Mm.
they go through. He actually used the words, "It's gonna make you more human." And that has been true. And you also realize along the way, I think anyone who seems to have no one has a perfect. And so part of your job in the world is just helping other people get through and manage through those difficult times, right? That's how he showed up for me. That's how I show up for other people. So I think that's like the most fundamental kind of core thing.
And I'm imagining part of your empathy journey now is being the Chris for everyone else. I mean, I love paying it forward. I love helping someone as best I can navigate a tough journey that I've already walked. Yeah. So, I mean, is that very clear to you how you have transformed as a leader given the mentoring relationship you have with Chris?
Totally. And I mean, part of that is normal maturation, I think, because at one point in my
Sure.
career was about me. But
Right.
now it is not about me. It is about how do I help the people around me and the team around me succeed, reach their full potential? How do I make sure that they're happy and healthy in their career? And then I always say, I do try to do as much mentoring as I can because I say if I can help anyone avoid any of the mistakes or manage through a difficult time, I want to do that because it's just had such a profound impact on my life. Like, shame on me if I don't find a way to do that and as much as I possibly can.
I just bought this stupid thing on Amazon and I love it. Yeah, but
Amazing.
normally I would do this because, like, yeah, I love it. It's so fun to, I don't know, pay it forward. I'm so glad and it doesn't surprise me that you're being an incredible mentor to everyone around you. Should we travel to present day?
Sure. Yes. Let's do it.
Here we are, present. Oh, cheese and butter.
Cheese too.
My next, would you say that life now is much butter than it was before?
That's
I'm
amazing.
sorry. Everyone, my wife, my daughter, everyone's rolling their eyes now after listening to this thing. Okay. My apologies to you listeners. All of us are constantly learning and growing until we're done on this planet. What's the learning edge for you now?
I'm focused on a few things. This chapter in Kerrygold is all about scaling the business from 1 to 2, in my head, actually 3 billion. That's the chapter. That's what I'm here to do. And to do it in a way that is authentic to our cooperative roots and our cooperative nature, and to build the team to help deliver that sustainably over time. And so I'm focused in a couple areas. One is how do I think about enterprise systems to deliver against that, whether it's related to driving the business or developing the team. And so that's part of my journey, hopefully, in my learning and growth towards leading a large organization as a CEO. The next area that I am fully on a learning journey on is around how tech can enable our future work. And like that's like obviously everyone's on that, but like I've really tried to embrace that in the last 2 years because at certain points in your career you realize the skills that have gotten you to this point will never get you to the next point. And like I feel like I'm not well versed in that. And so I've really focused there. And then I think it's a little bit of Like, how do I show up for my team in a way every day that builds a culture that enables them to be happy and healthy? And I'm constantly fine tuning that, like constantly.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is, self-reflection and I do have a coach that I work with. He helps me in all those areas. But, I think you're right, you're never done. And then the other thing that I'm also working on is because this job has been so meaningful to me. It means a lot to me. I get a lot from it. I give a lot to it. But how do I do that in a way that I'm still maintaining all of the other ways I want to show up for people in my life? That is still a learning thing that it's like I got to go to the gym every day on that, or at least every week on that. I need to spend some time thinking about it and planning for it. It's not muscle memory yet. It's not habit yet. For how do I continually integrate that in a healthy way?
So, speaking of muscle memory, in my own life, I have grown through and put to bed many of the patterns that were leading me to the life I wanted to have. However, there's still ghosts from Christmas past that like to show up. My instinct sometimes, around pleasing or whatever it might be. I have a different relationship with it though. It shows up like it used to, but I have more command over those fears or those patterns when they show up. So I'm kind of curious, do ghosts from Christmas past, all of the patterns we just talked about with you, show up? And what do you do with them now that you've really experienced this idea around like abundance mindset and leading with empathy? How do you handle it, the old ghosts?
Yeah, the whole winning thing does show up for me a lot. I have a new boss who I love working with. He is also very competitive, though. I always joke he's actually probably one of the most ambitious people I've ever met, including myself. He's the real deal.
Huh?
So the winning thing comes up a lot. And so I don't have a good answer for how I avoid it, except in my mind, that's where tools come in. And so simple, like, do I have my mission written down? Do I have like all the goals that I have in life, not just work goals, but personal goals? Have I established those and am I revisiting them? So when I start to get that anxiety around, oh God, am I doing enough at work to make sure that we're like getting to the 3 billion immediately, it helps ground me a little bit. I've also found talking to people, like I am very introverted, but as I've gotten older, I've realized the value of talking to people. And whether it's a coach or whether it's your peers or your team or whatever it is, to share some of what you're feeling and or to help you with it is invaluable. Because when you know it's a bit of a watch out or a blind spot or a weakness, what you do is you put things around you to facilitate you and help you in that, I think. And other people are immensely helpful. Even my boss, I haven't probably talked to him. I probably should do this, but I should probably ask for his help with it. Now that I'm talking through that out loud. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is I go back to what makes me feel grounded, what I know I want, and I try to spend some time there every single week. On Sundays usually to get ready for the next week, to be proactive and planful and strategic about how I spend my time and my energy, to know when I've got hot spots that may be coming at me that I need to kind of be prepared for in a more thorough way.
Okay, I love the intention. I love the thoughtfulness around avoiding all the old ghosts. So we started this conversation talking about purpose, and I think that's a tie to. I've got a couple more questions that are a little bit about legacy, and I think those two ideas go hand in hand. So you said to me in the past that you want to help shape the food industry and the next generation of leaders. What do you hope you leave behind in people you're leading now as a part of that?
A couple things. Number one, the idea of purpose based leadership has been transformative. And so opening people's minds and eyes to that, right? It is very easy to just treat a job like a job. Like our organization has purpose, I have purpose, so it's a little maybe all wrapped up in one. But I try to help people think about, well, what is their purpose? And it doesn't have to be work related. It could be, I want to create financial security for my family, or I want to be a CEO that leaves a legacy on, an X, Y, and Z. I try to instill that in my team. And especially in my mentoring and coaching relationships, because again, like that was kind of the process I went through. And so it's what I know. I really am trying to build a culture where my team can be happy and healthy and feel like they're reaching their full potential at work. And, that takes some effort, honestly. It takes some protecting my team at times. And then it takes some intentional action to make sure we're building the right cultural tenets in the ways that we're working the business. Those are some big areas. And then the other thing that we try to instill as this is my leadership team now, but we try to instill, okay, well, what does our big, bold business ambition look like as for our business and for our team, and then work backwards. Because I think what that enables people to do is think bigger than their current circumstances. And that also has been a learning journey for me, right? And so I think, we are really trying to get our team to think like that. And so how do we establish the biggest, boldest vision, which not just by whatever it is, our group executive, our CEO standard is outstanding, but by our standards is outstanding. And then how are we going to put the right things in action? And I hope that that's the legacy I leave with folks. And then also, you know how they say people will never remember what you said or what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. Gosh, like I remember leaders who made me feel fantastic continually, and then other leaders who made me feel like the smallest human being alive, not even a human being. And so I really do hope that I'm creating positive energy and making people feel good.
If your team were here right now, your executive team, how do you think they'd answer that question? How does Lindsay make you feel?
I think they would say I make them feel challenged. That might be the first thing they say. But I also think that they would say that they know I care about them and that I am working in support of them. I will do anything for those guys. I will go to bat. I will fall on swords. And I hope that they feel that. And then the other thing I hope that they would say is that in an effort to help them reach their full potential, I've been candid, really candid, but also caring with direct feedback.
Anything they'd be surprised to learn about you? I mean, not in a grand scheme of things. I'm sure there's all kinds of things they don't know about you. Something about this purpose that's driving you and the amount of energy you are putting into being a great leader. Is there anything you would imagine they would be surprised to hear about the drive that is you as a leader?
I do try to share the purpose thing because I think it impacts how I show up. And sometimes the intensity and the energy and like, oh God, she's looking at her email at 5 a.m. when she's on the treadmill. Why is she doing that? It's because I care so much. I think actually what I probably don't do as much, I've done it more, I think, in recent months. I try to be vulnerable because I think demonstrating vulnerability can help build trust. I really do believe that. But they
Amen,
probably,
sister.
yeah, I mean, but it is hard and it's not a natural thing for me. So they would actually probably be surprised a little bit about the depth of what's important to me in my personal life. So I probably haven't shared that or been as vulnerable on that as some of the other areas.
Well, we'll just go ahead and send this recording right over to them, and then they'll know, and then there won't be any more surprises. A couple more questions, and then we're gonna wrap this baby up. For the leader that was you 5-10 years back, that was still in this like I'm being driven by winning and people's approval around me. This is before you began to wake up through your mentoring and everything else. What would you say to someone like that if you were to, as a mentor? Like, what would be, if you had 30 seconds in an elevator with someone that was in your shoes, what's the one thing you would want them to hear?
Begin with the end in mind.
Begin with the end in mind.
So what you're doing is awesome, but fast forward 60 years and is what you're doing going to have made a difference in how you feel about your life? That's the one thing.
Speaking of the end in mind, what do you think 70-year-old Lindsay, what advice would she have for you right now?
It would probably be to enjoy life a little more and probably something around perspective. I work a lot. Again, like I get a lot from it, but sometimes Sunday afternoons are for football and beer and not for self-reflecting on the week ahead. So there's a little bit of that. I mean, I do have a lot of joy in my life in general, but I think there's probably a little bit of that. And then like I'm kind of a serious person. I care a lot about it and care a lot about work and if things go wrong, I do take it personally still. Like, and there is just a little bit of perspective around like age 70, is that really going to matter? And do you really need to have it ruin a Tuesday night? Or could you just accept it as a loss and just kind of move on?
Huh? Yeah. Maybe that's her pinging you right now. She's saying, no, 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 no. This is actually what you need to know. The cosmic waitress, she's up there and she's delivering the message to you right now.
I'm literally on Do Not Disturb, but I guess I should have shut it all down. Because whoever just got through to me is very important, obviously. But
I would pay close attention to whatever message that was, because that showed up for a real reason, I'm sure. Okay, I asked this last question of everyone. This is Fearful Giants. I really do believe we're all giants, and learning how to be with our fear in healthy ways makes all the difference in our lives. So, what truth helps the giant in you rise up when fear drags you down?
mm, probably many, but two really important tenets come to mind. I haven't gotten these as tattoos yet, but my sisters have. Well, first of all, control the controllables. So, like, you can't control everything, and just the
Yeah,
reality is like sometimes that emotion is going to present itself, right? And then this too shall pass is a big one for our family. So you can't prevent fear, you can't prevent certain things from happening. But the reality is it will. Time moves on, and unfortunately nothing amazing ever is, in perpetuity, and nothing horrible is ever in perpetuity.
I love it. Yeah. Well, Lindsay, talk about breath in this conversation. We were talking about using butter to prevent chafing while running, and now we're talking about your deepest, most intimate, characteristics. Or it's been an awesome hour. I really appreciate your willingness to do this with me, and I just know that people listening are getting a lot from this. This is exactly why I just love doing the show. It's having folks like you that are willing to share their own journey. So I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Oh, this is your legacy in the world, Clay, I think, is just bringing these types of conversations and insights out for people. Sometimes when you don't even know what's happening, and I really appreciate you for doing this.
Well, it's been my pleasure. Thank you. Do you have anything you want to pitch? Do you want to tell people where to go get their butter, or what do you got that you want people to know?
Well, first of all, go to any local grocery store and buy as much Kerrygold butter and cheese as possible. No one
And
knows about our
cheese.
cheese. It's shocking,
Don't
but it's
forget the cheese,
excellent.
folks.
Don't forget the cheese, please. And then I don't have anything personal. I guess the thing I would offer is, if anyone out there, if anything really made an impact on anyone and they'd like to talk through it or ask a question or anything, I'd welcome that. I'm readily available and fightable on LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to catch me. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful.
Amazing. I love it. Thank you again. And everyone listening, I just hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Please follow the show and join me, Clay Stelzer, each week as we stop pretending, we name our fears, and we remember what it takes to stand tall as the giants we already are. When leaders get real, they make it safe for others to do the same. So please subscribe or follow wherever you listen to podcasts. Share with other leaders, leave a review if you're inclined, and help more people feel what's possible when fear doesn't run the show. Thanks so much.